Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Overcooked Podcast. Today we're taking a look at a number of really cool topics. We've got China opening their doors with STEM visas to boost tech talent. We're taking a look at Australia to deploy AI-piloted Ghost Shark Submarines. We've got Microsoft's light-powered computer could run AI 100 times faster. We've got Anthropic Blocks Chinese-controlled firms from Claude AI. We're taking a look at Russia's Enteromix Cancer Vaccine showing 100% efficiency in early trials. We're taking a look at artificial cartilage could improve arthritis treatment. We're taking a look at AI-guided cameras enabling Solo Surgeries, which is advancing surgical automation. We're taking a look at Australia launching life-saving vaccines for koalas. And finally, we're looking at humanoid robot workers and where we currently are today. Let's start off with China opening their doors with STEM visas to boost tech talent. So essentially this was announced on August 14th. It comes into effect on the 1st of October. It's quite accelerated. And this is where China is launching what they call a K visa, which is to attract young STEM professionals in science, technology, engineering, and math talent from around the world. It was announced in mid-October. It's going to be rolling out, obviously, 1st of October, and this is strategic timing given the global talent race. The significance of this is it's a move to position China as a major hub for high-tech innovation. It's part of a bigger global competition for top talent in fields like AI and biotech, and recent breakthroughs in AI like mRNA tech, which we're going to be talking about later, and other fields have made STEM talent incredibly valuable. This visa is a way for China to tap into that global talent pool among geopolitical competition, and obviously how this might spur other countries to revise their own visa policies and how it could shift the global tech landscape is some of the things for us to be considering. Now, for me, one of my questions when it comes to this is how is this going to affect what people decide to study? Obviously, being able to, have a number of country opportunities to go and exercise your studying could be something that changes what you choose to study. And STEM research in general is something that obviously is very revolutionary. It could help us identify a number of problems that we currently face today. And it's interesting to see China take such an accelerated approach, but that is not unusual for China. Next, we're taking a look at Australia, which is deploying what they call AI-piloted Ghost Shark Submarines. I want to show you what these actually look like. They look pretty flippin' insane. Check this out. It literally looks like a solid cylinder, like a square-shaped cylinder. I wouldn't even know what you call that. It literally looks like a rocket. It's got like tiny little wings on it, no windows at all, madness. And obviously these are going to be completely remote operated, right? So let's take a look at some of the details of this. They're autonomous. They're underwater vehicles piloted by AI that Australia is developing for naval use. And this isn't something that they're, just trialing out on the side. They're spending 1.7 billion on a fleet of these Ghost Shark submarines. They're mainly for military applications like surveillance and reconnaissance, which reduces the need for human crews and advancing autonomous naval technology. But there could also be other use cases, right? Maybe we can use it for ocean exploration and scientific research. Personally, I thought a topic like this would probably prioritize those things. But I guess among, Ukraine and Israel and all that sort of stuff, having a military application to this for surveillance and reconnaissance does kind of check out, right? It kind of makes sense. So the US and other countries do have similar tech, like the US Navy Orca, which is used for underwater missions, but these autonomous subs could also be used for ocean exploration, like mapping the seafloor or studying marine ecosystems. I actually watched an interesting show on Netflix the other day, which was about a group of scuba divers that go and try and unearth wrecks. And this could be an application for that. It might take the fun out of the human work, but you could learn a lot based on being able to explore the ocean 24/7. No one would get fatigued. So this is very interesting to me, definitely overcooked, but the rise of autonomous warfare is something that is, actively growing. And the speed of innovation from prototype to fleet is increasing. So the dual use potential of peaceful research missions is a possibility, but I think specifically for this use case, Australia is spending this money for a military application. What do you think about this? Next up, we're taking a look at Microsoft's light-powered computer, which could run AI 100 times faster. So essentially what this is I thought immediately, I was like, oh wow, they're taking like a fiber optics approach here. That was the evolution of ADSL and fixed line internet, was the birth of fiber optic internet, which uses light. The key differences here for a light-powered computer would essentially be that when you're using it for fiber optics, it's data transfer. But when you're using it as a light-powered computer, this is essentially an analog optical computer that uses photons instead of electricity like electrons to perform AI computations. It's amazing to me how much we underestimated the power of light. That's the first thing I think about when I think about this stuff, right? It essentially leverages the speed and efficiency of light to potentially run AI tasks up to 100 times faster than traditional computers. And we do actually have some looks at this. This thing that I'm looking at right now, for me, looks like something that should go in Tony Stark's chest, to be quite honest with you. It looks mad. It literally looks like a White House meets Tony Stark's power source on top of a circuit board. Call me crazy, but that's what it looks like. It looks mad. It looks like something out of the future. If I popped into the future and I'm like, that checks out. That is what I expected of modernized computers in the future. Totally. And obviously this is crazy. I didn't even think it would be possible to use light, to be quite honest with you, but it's still in the early to mid development phase. We might see specialized usage for years to come, but widespread commercial availability is likely quite a bit further out. So could revolutionize AI computing and possibly work alongside other light-based tech like fiber optics in the long run, but overcooked. Microsoft, slow down, bro. You're drunk. Next up, we're taking a look at Anthropic, which has blocked Chinese-controlled firms from Claude AI. So we spoke about this in the last podcast where NVIDIA and AMD had been restricted from selling their chips specifically to China, and then that restriction was lifted. And they were then able to sell to China again as long as they included a 15% additional fee. And we thought okay, well, if China does too well, we could see restrictions like that come back into place. But that was a government incentivized restriction. It was something that the government specifically put into action. Here, we see it a little bit differently. So if you don't know what Claude AI is, I suggest you go take a look. They're a really cool product. It's really powerful. You can use it for macOS, Windows. It essentially allows you to do a number of things. You can see design, business strategy, content creation, data analysis, software development. So they're not a junior in the terms of the AI space, but Anthropic decided to block Chinese-controlled firms from accessing their Claude AI, likely as a proactive move to control who uses their technology. Known for developing Claude AI, this is specifically Anthropic's background, and focusing on AI safety and ethics, they're a key player in the AI space alongside some other big names. So if we compare it to the NVIDIA AMD situation, like I said, unlike NVIDIA and AMD, which faces government-specific rules, Anthropic seems to be acting on its own to set a precedent or potentially show something like responsibility. There is some competition concerns from China, right? They might be doing this partially because of rising competition from other AI firms, including major Chinese tech companies like Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba. So these might be hard to enforce. Restrictions like this are hard to enforce. It might be, workaroundable with something like a VPN. Maybe Anthropic will make it exclusive to credit cards. You can only use a card or a payment method that's outside of China. So exactly how they enforce this and how they maintain that enforcement is yet to be seen, but we can see the seams starting to, kind of rip apart as to where the competition is, how the people feel about this competition. We need to keep our eyes open, but yeah, absolutely crazy. Next up on our topic lineup, we're taking a look at Russia's Enteromix Cancer Vaccine, which is showing 100% efficiency in early trials. This was announced at the Eastern Economic Forum, or EEF, and it was announced by Veronika Skvortsova. I always have trouble pronouncing these names. Maybe you have a better pronunciation for it. And news reports started on the 8th of September. So Enteromix is a Russian mRNA-based cancer vaccine that reported these 100% efficiency in early trials. So it's similar to COVID-19 vaccines. It uses messenger RNA as the delivery system, and the mRNA tells healthy cells to produce specific antigens or proteins that resemble those found on cancer cells. And once these antigens are made, the immune system now recognizes them as a foreign entity and mounts a defense. When the immune system later encounters real tumor cells carrying those same markers, it's essentially primed to attack and destroy them. And I always find that quite interesting about a vaccine. When I was younger, I thought, vaccine is just a cure-all. It just completely removes that risk of, that pathogen or whatever life-risking bacteria or disease or virus. It just removes it completely. But that's not essentially the case. It's actually a process whereby we improve the way the body learns how to fight certain threats, right? So the goal essentially is to shrink or eliminate tumors by turning the patient's own immune system into a cancer-fighting tool, potentially with fewer side effects than traditional chemo or radiation. It's an emerging player in the field of cancer vaccines using mRNA tech to train the immune system to attack cancer cells. It's still early stages compared to some of the other big players, but one of the takeaways here is that 100% efficiency. We don't know how exactly those studies were done. We don't know how much of those studies might have been influenced, but it does, offer a comparison to some of the other tech that we see in the space developing some of these mRNA vaccines. So generally, vaccines like this take several years to go from early trials to market. So there's still a long path ahead before something like widespread use. Other leaders like BioNTech and Moderna, one of the guys that made the COVID vaccines, are further ahead, but Enteromix is an interesting new entrant. Next up, we're taking a look at artificial cartilage, which could improve arthritis treatment. So the University of Cambridge posted about this research on the 10th of September, and that's something that a lot of people go through. You hear about it often. Some people might, complain about their knees. My knee is very sore. My joints are fatigued. A lot of people, like long distance runners and things like that, run into long-term side effects from utilizing that body so much, and that cartilage wears down and, essentially becomes painful for the user. Right? So Cambridge scientists developed an artificial cartilage that delivers anti-inflammatory drugs directly to the inflamed joints, promising more effectiveness. And I find this quite crazy because obviously the cartilage itself is synthetic, but it's printed. It's printed using biocompatible polymers, right? Using advanced 3D bioprinting, and it even can incorporate the patient's own cells to improve the likelihood of that being accepted by the body. And that's something that's crazy to me as well. If you just print a cartilage with plastic and you pop it in your knee, your body's going to be like, been threat detected. I'm going to attack this thing until it either dies or gives up. And essentially the challenge for surgeons and doctors is to be able to actually create a compatible piece of biosynthetic polymer that the body accepts. And this is essentially why this is, overcooked, is because they're making significant strides in this process where, we could improve arthritis treatment by 3D printing a cartilage. Imagine, you wake up one day, you're like, damn, my knee's quite sore. I'm just going to pop into my laundry real quick, hit the 3D printer, print myself a new knee cartilage, install it, and I'm on my way. Obviously, that's years ahead, but it's flipping cooked. Next, we're taking a look at AI-guided cameras, which are enabling Solo Surgeries, advancing surgical automation, which kind of rolls on the previous point. Imagine you've got an AI that designs you a nice cartilage, right? Prints it for you perfectly and installs it for you. straight up automated. You don't even have to leave your house. You just pop into the bio chamber, at the back of your house and quickly just replace all the degrading parts. It's crazy. But this is not quite that far along. This actually takes an angle which you might not have expected. It's more about the camera. The camera itself is the AI guided part. So the camera, managing the camera, keeping the right angles, managing, what the doctor can see while he's performing the surgery, that's what this thing does. And they also use something else called MARS. And what MARS is it's a magnetic assisted robotic surgery. So not only is the camera being AI guided while the surgeon is working, but they're also using magnetic assisted robotic surgery tools so that they can perform these surgeries non-invasively, which is crazy. Obviously that kind of checks out for me. If there was some like Marvel show and that there's sort of magnetic assisted surgery and this guy's just working with like two magnets, adjacent to the patient's body, that checks out. But I didn't quite think it would be an application so soon, especially like years ago. I didn't wake up one day and be like, you know what I expect from the future? Non-invasive, magnetically assisted surgery whereby the camera is controlled by an AI. Maybe I could have believed it, but I didn't expect it to be here right now. And this is essentially already in use. It's actually being used in actual surgeries. There was a gallbladder removal in Chile, which helped us see that, they can help a single surgeon operate without a large team using some of these tools. Is it a stepping stone to something like automating and creating, doctor level surgery operations that have no doctor oversight? I don't think people are prepared enough to take that leap, to be quite honest with you, right? I think people are less prepared to do that than our technology right now. Also, the implications of a mistake far outweigh the benefits, right? I can imagine any technology manufacturer creating something like that could die as quickly as it successfully started with one single mishap. And I think that's where, it's one step towards more automated surgeries in the future. But for now, it's more about assisting surgeons rather than replacing them. But let me know, if it has been done 100 times successfully, would you still feel comfortable with a AI and non-human surgeon performing an operation on you that involves, potentially life-threatening disadvantages if done incorrectly? That is the question. Are we ready for something like that? Probably not, but it is overcooked. Next up, we're taking a look at Australia, which has launched life-saving vaccines for koalas. So chlamydia is actually a big problem with koalas, and that's probably something that you've already heard. It affects a large percentage of the population and causes health issues like infertility and even blindness, right? But look at these dudes. I always think, everybody's always told me koalas look cute, but if you mess with them, they're going to screw you up. And dude, this guy looks so relaxed, bro. He looks so chilled. They look so cool. I would probably keep one as a pet, but, common sense suggests to me that that's going to be bad. Now, the chlamydia that afflicts koalas isn't actually transmissible to humans. It doesn't, threaten us that way, but that's potentially what they said about bats. And then here comes COVID to say, nah, I evolved. I'm now, some call me a Pokemon. But essentially, this research has been going on for years, and they've recently reached the point where they can start rolling out this vaccine and essentially start the initiative to protect koalas. It's been tested and is considered safe for koalas with careful monitoring in place to watch for any issues. And it's not a risk to humans since the strain doesn't affect people. They've started vaccinating koalas, and over the next few months, they'll expand it even further. It's a big win for koala conservation and a big win for Australia, which, I think is home to some of the largest population of koalas. And it shows that Australia, is making big moves. They've got, autonomous submarines that they're going to be using for military use. They've got flippin' life-saving koala vaccines. And that's not the only stuff that we're hearing out of Australia. So that's absolutely crazy. But it's not as crazy as our next topic and final topic for the day. This is humanoid robot workers. I think you'll be surprised at how far we've actually come with humanoid robot workers. I was specifically very surprised by Amazon, for example, right? The second largest US employer. They've got 1.56 million employees, and it's just built its millionth robot and is trialing humanoids for deliveries. So if they put that in perspective, 1.56 million employees and a million robots, that's almost, it's almost 50%. It's like, it's actually insane how many robots they have. I didn't know they had that, but it kind of checks out because Amazon is really a well lubricated machine. It can just and get you that package real quick. Some cities in the US even boast, same day delivery within 2 hours. You have to have your stuff quite together to manage the logistics of that kind of delivery. But let's take a look at what some of these look like. So the first one here, you can see it. It actually looks pretty crazy. And that's the crazy thing for me as well is, why does a robot need fingers? It can have any kind of, tools to do its expected job. So I guess it can work 24/7. It can have all sorts of, you don't have a barcode scanner just built into your left eye. They can build that in. You don't have the ability to lift, 300 kgs of a box, and they can just, sweet, no problem. Where do you want the box? So that's pretty crazy for me. Here's a look at one of them, and that's absolutely mad. Absolutely mad. So I wonder where this could go in the future, but robotic deliveries is something we spoke about on episode 1, I think, with Coco. It was the robot that delivered your burger. But I think Amazon has taken it a few steps further. And obviously 1 million robots, you don't just build 1 million robots and they just sit there like waiting for a task. Like, what would you like? I wonder if I'm ever going to get used. They're using it all the time. They actually have workflows for these in place. So its life-size humanoids have gone from stage demos to pilot projects in just a few short years. Tesla's Optimus, teased in 2021, is now a walking prototype being tested in Tesla factories. And some of the guys that make these robots for someone like Amazon is Agility Robotics. It's a 10-year-old company spun out of Oregon State University Robotics Lab. Says its factory is now designed to manufacture 10,000 robots a year eventually. But 10,000 robots a year, that's pretty crazy, depending on the use case. And I'm sure if you've gone through your TikTok feed, you've checked some of these crazy little robots, like that short little robot dude. I saw a guy push one of those over, and that thing got up so fast, it was insane, So these are pretty crazy pieces of tech. I personally believe that even a human can't get up that fast. That thing literally touched the ground for like 0.2 of a second. It was like, nope, I'm going straight back up. And, it does kind of scratch the back of my head. It is a little bit startling because, what is the military application of this? No one designs robots that can move packages and assist Amazon to that degree and doesn't think about the military application. We have, autonomous Ghost Shark Submarines going to Australia. What is the odds that, robots, we've already got drones, some of them autonomous, that, in Ukraine we've seen, it's a little bit less cool, but we've seen in Ukraine, they just run that thing with a fiber optics cable. They don't even use Wi-Fi. They're just like, sweet, we'll just run this thing with a cable. And the advancements of that will be pretty crazy. The other day I saw a wireless TV, a TV that uses absolutely no connections, just this giant VCR looking box. And, you just point, it looks like a DJ set actually, but you just point it at the TV and there you go, look, 4K, 120 hertz, Ultra HD wireless, which is insane because the bandwidth transfer over an HDMI cable is like beyond multiple gigabytes per second. So, tech is advancing pretty quick, and how that will evolve into robots is a big question, and how they will actually provide power to these devices. And obviously they also use these are using advanced compute as well. They could be using advanced AI to manage multiple robots at a single given time, outperforming like a well-trained military team. Yeah, the application is pretty crazy. Japan has also started to use robots in 7-Eleven shops to compensate for the massive shortage of workers. So it's not just Amazon and it's not just the US. So Japan's largest convenience store chain has begun trials of robot workers in an effort to address a severe labor shortage in the country. At a 7-Eleven shop in Tokyo, this will be the first to test the autonomous machines, which can perform tasks like stacking shelves and cleaning windows. And we even have a picture of one of these guys. It looks like an advanced Roomba. It literally looks like a cooler box. Why are all these robotics companies making cooler boxes? Cooler box shaped robots. Maybe it offers, a lot of space to store a lot of the internal parts, but it can actually do quite a few things. You can see it can carry some stuff and all that sort of stuff. But Japan is taking it pretty seriously. So, that's pretty crazy. And, the thing for me is, and maybe it will change in time, but I always believe, if you see a Coco robot delivering a burger, people are going to mess with it. And I don't know how long that'll take to phase out. And I don't know what the application will be. Will you get sued for millions of dollars? Probably. You just kick one of those robots, like a bunch of, kids having fun, joking around, tipping it over. I definitely see that happening. So, what is the acceptance of these? How are workers going to feel who usually work those jobs? I think in Japan it's a little bit different because they've got a hard time sourcing the staffing force necessary to facilitate these vacancies. So it's not like they're replacing people. It's providing resources in a place where there's not enough people. So it is a little bit different, but again, it literally looks like an air purifier, to be quite honest with you. And that's not the only one. Agility Robotics powers the future of robotics with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA AI infrastructure and developer frameworks made it possible for them to train robust models and process real-world sensor data in real time. And this is NVIDIA's crazy thing. I mean, AI, gaming, robotics, these guys are moving real quick. And at the heart of Digit's onboard compute is a NVIDIA accelerator. And this is one that has been evolving from NVIDIA RTX hardware in earlier versions toward the purpose of built NVIDIA Jetson AGX Thor robotics computer. And that brings us to the end of the Overcooked podcast for episode 3. It's been a great pleasure joining you guys again for this week's episode. And as usual, we're going to be back at it next week. Leave any comments down below for any thoughts that you had on any of these stories, and let us know any suggestions for something that you might want us to cover next time. We really appreciate your guys' support. And as usual, we're going to be back at it like a bad habit next week. So tune in then. And if you made it to this part of the video, leave a thumbs up down in the comments. You deserve a little bit of recognition for lasting that long. Alrighty, guys, have a great one. See you next time. Bye-bye.